Welcome back to another tutorial, guys. In this video I'm going to show you how to implement something like this. Kind of looks like a bootleg version of Tombraider. If I hit this 10 times, it's going to rotate the head to the next phase and then next, and so on and so forth. So if this is what you want to see, then stick with me throughout this tutorial and I'm going to show you how to implement this. Okay, so to start off, we're going to make a new project. I'm gonna call this, bootleg Tombraider, like so, and I'm gonna hit create. I'm gonna start off by making the ground, so I'm gonna just make it as simple as possible. So I'm gonna make this called ground, and I'm gonna make this 200 by 200 in both X and Z direction, and then I'm just gonna change my mouse distance here. Okay, so I'm gonna make a new folder in the assets folder. I'm gonna call this folder material, and as usual I'm gonna create my ground material here. So I'm gonna select material and I'm gonna call this green. I'm gonna make this one green like so, and then I'm gonna drag my green material and put it on the ground. Next, I'm gonna make my player object. So I'm gonna make a let's see capsule. Okay, I'm gonna drag this here like so, and I'm gonna position my camera and I'm gonna put it with the capsule or the main player. So this way it follows. We want it to be on top of the player. We want it to be like an FPS, right? So this is gonna be on top of the player like so. And I'm gonna adjust this position like so, and that should work. So if I hit play and notice this, okay, so far looks so good. Okay, so I have my player. I'm going to get rid of the capsule collider because we don't need this. We're gonna add a character controller which already has a collider by default. So I'm gonna add this character controller and we're gonna leave this the way it is. Next, we want to make a script that will control the camera movement with the mouse. And for reference, let's put an object here so we know the mouse is changing. So I'm gonna create an object, cube, and I'm gonna put this cube right here, right? And I'm gonna make another folder. I'm gonna call this scripts. And in the scripts folder, I'm gonna create a C# script and I'm gonna call this camera controller. So I'm going to attach this camera controller to the camera itself like so, and then I'm going to open this camera controller. I'm going to delete I'm gonna delete these here. I'm gonna start from scratch. So there are a couple things I want to control here. When we move our mouse horizontally, we just want we want the entire player to move, right? So we want to rotate the entire player like so. So if we select the player and we press E, and we want to rotate the player like so. So this is our horizontal mouse movement essentially, right? So that's what we want to do with this script. So first of all, we want to get a reference for the entire player. So I'm gonna change this tag of the capsule. So I'm selected capsule here, and I'm gonna change the tag to player, and I'm gonna make another script called constants where we store all our constants. So C# scripts constants, and this is a good practice so you don't have to use magic numbers throughout thousands and thousands of scripts. I'm gonna delete everything from here. We don't need anything related to Unity. I'm gonna delete this mono behavior and change it to object. That should be more than enough. I'm gonna delete the start and update, and I'm gonna make this static a class. And next I'm gonna make this tag for the main capsule. So this is gonna be called player. So public const string player tag, and this is going to be equal to player like so. Okay, So I'm going to use this player tag to instantiate the player object. So this is connected to our camera, but we need a reference to the entire player. So I'm going to make a private game object player. I'm going to make a private method for awake, like so. And we're going to have our update method as well, like so. Okay, and in here we're going to instantiate the player. So we're going to type in player is equal to game object dot find game object with tag, and this tag is going to be constants dot player tag, like so. So this time, if you're going to use this thousands of times, you don't have to keep copying that string player. You can just use constants dot player tag. And if you want to change it in like thousands of classes, all you have to do is come back to the constants class and change it here instead, and we'll change it everywhere else. So now that we have reference to the player, we want to make a method, or before we even make a method, we want to find a reference to the mouse movement. So I'm gonna make a private float mouse X and private float mouse Y. And in my constants, I'm gonna make another reference for the mouse. So I'm gonna call this mouse X, and this is gonna be called mouse Y. And for here, whoops, this shouldn't be player colon. This should be just player. So I'm gonna change this to mouse X, and I'm gonna change this to mouse Y. Now, how do I know these strings exist? Well, if you go back here to Unity and you hit edit and you hit project settings, you click on input, axis, and then you see these mouse X and mouse Y. These are just the mouse movements, right? So if you move horizontally, it will detect mouse X, and if you move vertically, it will detect mouse Y. It's as simple as that. So that's why I'm using mouse X and mouse Y. So in here, I can just say these are my mouse X and mouse Y floats. At first, they're going to be equal to 0 when we first start the game. So mouse Y is equal to, 0.0f. Then I'm going to make a method that will update the mouse X and mouse Y on each frame of the update method. So I'm going to say private void update mouse X and mouse Y. You can call it whatever you want. I'm just trying to find like a descriptive name for this. And I'm going to make this mouse X is equal to input dot get axis, and this will detect the horizontal and vertical axis, and we're gonna type in constants dot mouse X, so that's for mouse X, and for mouse Y we're gonna type in input dot get axis constants dot mouse Y. Right? So now we're gonna multiply these two by time.delta time, because remember, we're calling them each second here since the last time update was called. So we're gonna multiply this by time.delta time, and similarly here, so time.delta time. And we also want to have a mouse sensitivity, just like you would play in a video game. So we're going to define that in here. So I'm going to define these floats. Then I'm going to say public const float, and then mouse sensitivity is equal to, let's say, 100f, just like so. And then I can use this mouse sensitivity in here as well. So I can type in times constants dot mouse sensitivity, and then same thing here. So constants dot mouse sensitivity. Now for mouse Y, we're not just gonna set it to the like we do in here. We're gonna actually subtract it on each frame, because it takes the reverse of the Y direction each time. So you'll see what I mean. So for example, before we use mouse Y, let's just move the player horizontally. So I'm gonna make a private void move player, or not move, but rotate player left and right, like so. And then in here, I'm just gonna change the rotation of the player. So I'm gonna say, you know, player dot transform dot rotate. And then in here, I'm gonna rotate this like so. So I'm gonna say player.transform.rotate, and then we're gonna rotate it around its y-axis. So I'm gonna say player.transform.up, and I'm gonna times this by mouse X, not mouse Y, but mouse X. So each time I move my mouse horizontally, it will take that value, multiply it by player.transform.up, and it will rotate it by that amount. So if I save this and I run this, so let's look what happens. So far it's not moving because, let's see. So we have our camera controller, it's connected to the main camera, and our player here is declared. We have the player tag in here, so we're defining that player, but for some reason, so player.transform.rotate, oh, I know why, because we're not calling any of these methods in the update method right here. So first of all, I'm going to update my X and Y coordinates. Actually, let me delete this from here and make a complete method for these two. So I'm gonna make a private void rotate camera up and down. So this is one of them. So we're gonna use all these three methods in the overall rotation. Then I'm gonna have a private void rotate camera, like so. And I'm gonna call all these three methods sequentially here. So the first thing you have to call is the update of of your X and Y horizontal inputs. So that's the first thing you gotta update. Then you can call either or of these methods. It doesn't matter which order. So I'm gonna call rotate player left and right, and then rotate camera up and down. And then I'm gonna call this rotate camera on each frame of the update method. All right. So let's test this out. So if I hit play, you'll see that my camera rotates with the mouse, and this works okay. This is pretty good so far. Alright, so now we need to rotate the camera up and down, and to do that we're gonna access the camera, which is just by transform, and then this time we're gonna say transform.rotation, or not rotation, but transform.local rotation, right? It should be mouse Y 0 and 0. So this should work. So quaternion.euler mouse Y 0 0. Yeah, this should work now. So yeah, as you can see, this is working. Now we just need to get the camera like so. So it's kind of not in the middle of our player. So this should be okay. So let's play this now. So this is moving perfectly. So this is good. Okay, so we got our camera controller working now. Now all we need is to get the player movement. So to do that, I'm gonna make another script, and I'm gonna call this player controller. Then I'm gonna open up the script, or before I open it up, I wanna drag this and drop it on my capsule player, and I'm gonna open this. Okay, so to get a reference to the character controller, we already have a character controller component attached to our capsule, and we have the script here, so that means we can get a quick reference on it. So I'm gonna delete these. So private character controller, or let's call this controller. We're gonna have our awake method. And then we're gonna have our update. Okay, and then here we're gonna initialize controller to be equal to get component, character controller, like so. So now we have our controller. And then now I'm just gonna make a method called move. So private void move player, let's call it that. And then in here we're gonna get a move direction for our player. But before we do that, let's get a reference to the WASD keys. And to do that, to know what you're getting access to, you just go to project settings again. And as you can see, there's this vertical and horizontal axis. And the way this works is when you press S or W, the vertical is going to be -1 and +1 respectively. And when you press A and D on your keyboard, the horizontal component is going to be -1 and +1 respectively. So we can use that to our advantage. So I'm going to copy the name of this and go back here, go to constants. I'm going to make 2 more string constants. I'm going to call this horizontal and I'm going to call this vertical. And for this one, it's going to be horizontal, and then this one's going to be vertical, like so. Okay, so this is our WASD keys. That's how we get. That's how we capture them. Then in here, I'm gonna make private float horizontal, like so. Private float vertical, and then in my awake, I'm gonna do horizontal is equal to 0.0f, vertical is equal to 0.0f. So we instantialize them or instantiate them. Then we can say in here, I'm gonna make a method called private void update horizontal and vertical, like so. And then in here, I'm gonna say horizontal is equal to input dot get access, and then constants dot horizontal, and then vertical is equal to input dot get access, constants dot vertical, like so. So now when we want to move our player, we have to call update horizontal vertical first. So I'm gonna call this here. Whoops. So I'm gonna call this here, like so. And then I'm gonna give a move direction. So I'm gonna say vector3 move direction is equal to, and the move direction is going to be just a vector that can take this horizontal and this vertical. So I'm going to say, transform dot forward times, and for the forward we're going to use the vertical, so vertical, and then we're going to add to it transform dot right times horizontal, like so. And then we're gonna call controller dot move, and we're gonna specify a vector3, and that's gonna be our move direction. So it's gonna move in this direction. Now, obviously in here, I wanna, have it walk smoothly and according to a certain speed. So I'm gonna multiply this by time dot delta time, and similarly here, time dot delta time, and I'm gonna multiply this one by constants dot player speed. So we didn't create this variable yet, but I'm gonna create it. So I'm gonna multiply this by constants dot player speed as well, and then in my constants I'm gonna make a public const float and the player speed, and let's just set this to, you know, 20 for example. So that's how fast we're gonna walk. Then in my move player method, I'm gonna move this and put it in update. So now that everything's saved up, I'm gonna test this. So if I hit play, I can rotate my camera, and now I can also move my player as well. So far so good. Okay, next up, I want to lock my cursor to the screen and have a crosshair in the middle. So this is an FPS game, right? So you don't want to see any cursor or anything like that. So to lock your cursor, we're going to our script, and then in camera controller.cs, and then on awake, we're just gonna say cursor or cursor lock mode dot, sorry, so it's gonna be cursor dot lock state equal to cursor lock mode dot locked. So this is going to lock your cursor in the middle of the screen pretty much. So if I save this and run my script again, and my cursor is locked in the middle of the screen. So now we're gonna draw the crosshair. So to do that, I'm gonna go into my editor, and I'm gonna right click here, and I'm going to create a UI, and this is going to be an image. So you can see this image was created in the middle of my screen. I'm just gonna switch to 2D mode. Actually, no, I don't have to do that. Okay, so this is our image. I'm gonna make a crosshair now. So I'm gonna create empty crosshair. I'm gonna drag my first image to the crosshair, so it's gonna be a child. I'm gonna call this dot. Then I'm gonna duplicate this 4 times. So what I'm doing here is I'm gonna make this dot smaller actually. So I'm gonna make this, you know, 10 by 10. And let's see. So I'm gonna switch to 2D mode, and I'm gonna select dot, hit F. It's gonna focus on my dot here. I'm gonna move these around just so you don't get confused. So I'm gonna move this, I'm gonna move this. This is dot 4, so this is on the bottom. This is on the top, like so. But my dot here is centered, so this is what I want, right? So this dot right here, I'm gonna keep making this smaller, like so. And I'm gonna put this to the center, like so. And as for these, I'm gonna make them like this. I'm gonna make this thinner. And I'm gonna make this smaller, like so. So I'm gonna delete dot 1, dot 3, and dot 4. I'm gonna drag this dot right here. Then I'm going to duplicate this. Drag this down here. So this is position 36.9. This is minus 36.9. So it's gonna be the same height away from it. Let me make this smaller actually. I want to make this even smaller, for that matter. So I'm gonna make it like this. Okay, like so. And I'm gonna drag this. This crosshair is too long, so I'm gonna make this shorter, like so. Okay, that seems much better actually. So this is dot 3. I'm gonna delete dot 2. I'm gonna copy this like 3 times, and then I'm going to move this up like so. So this is minus 12.54. This is gonna be 12.54, like so. And then as for the other one, I'm going to rotate this actually. So I'm gonna set the rotation in Z to 90. Not 90 in scale, but should be 90 here, like so. And then I'm gonna take this one and rotate this 90 as well, like so. So we have our cursor like this, crosshair. This is gonna be 15.8 away, and this is going to be, actually let's make them all the same. Okay, this makes sense. This should be 12.54, and this should be minus 12.54, just like the vertical ones. Okay, so this is our crosshair. Now obviously, you know, we're gonna call this in a way so we can see it. So I'm gonna make all of these. I'm gonna select dot, hold shift, then select dot 6 where it says here, and it's gonna select all of them, and I'm gonna make them all the same color pretty much. So I'm gonna make this, yeah, I'm gonna make this purple, and I'm gonna make this slightly even smaller, this dot in the middle. So I'm gonna, like so. Okay, much better. So this is our crosshair so far. If I hit play, actually let me switch to 3D again. Yeah, so if I go to my capsule, focus here. If I hit play again, this is what it looks like. So we got our cursor so far, so that's good. Okay, so I'm gonna pause this. Now I could draw the arms and the guns, but actually, yeah, I can do that. That's fine. It's gonna take longer, but sure, let's do this. Okay, so let's make this quick. I'm gonna create arms. So I'm gonna make this a cylinder, and I'm gonna call this arm 1. You can call this right or left, doesn't matter. And for this arm, I'm gonna drag it. I'm going to rotate it on the x-axis. So I'm gonna make this 90, like so. I'm gonna make this the scale 0.2 in all directions, like so. Actually, let's have longer arms. I don't want this to be 0.5. Okay, that's good. I'm gonna attach this to my player, like so. And now you can kind of see the arms, so that's good. Okay, you can kind of see the arms actually. That's fine. Then I'm gonna take this arm, duplicate it, and this is going to be negative. See what I did here? So it's the same distance from the player relatively, but it's going to be minus 0.377. So this is gonna make it like, how do you say it? It's gonna make it like a mirror image of the other arm. So this is gonna be arm 2. Like so. Okay, now we got both of our arms. Let's just draw, you know, a simple pistol, right? So for this arm, I'm gonna create a 3D object, cube, and I'm just gonna drag this like so. And I'm gonna have another cube. Actually, I'm just gonna duplicate this like so. I'm gonna drag this here, and I'm just gonna, you know, rotate this around the x-axis, so 90. No, sorry, I'm gonna rotate this around, let's see, yeah, that is correct actually. So rotation 90, like so, 180. So I'm gonna make this longer in the, not y direction. Okay, so I'm gonna make this longer in the y direction, so like 2, like this. And then in the z direction, I'm gonna make this 0.2. So this is gonna be like the chamber, right? Like so. Then I'm gonna drag, I'm gonna put both of these in an object called gun. So I'm gonna create empty here. I'm gonna call this gun, and then I'm gonna put cube 1 and cube to, I'm gonna drag this into the gun, and then this gun is a whole object. I can just, you know, control, and then I'm going to duplicate this gun. So this is gun 2, and I'm gonna put it in the other arm, and for this gun it's gonna have negative 3.7699, like so. And this should, let's see, so this is here, this is here. Actually, let me move this like so. Okay, so it had a different scaling because it's relative to the arm too, so that's fine. I shouldn't have done that. So it's not a mirror image exactly, but all you have to do is just drag it and drop it till it looks kind of good to you. So this does look like a mirror image for the guns. I'm gonna give some colors to the player here, so I'm gonna make material, and I'm gonna make this material black. Okay, and let's see, I'm gonna do this black. I'm gonna drag and drop it onto my guns, so both cubes. So I'm gonna do like so, and same thing here. Whoops, I dragged the green one instead. So I'm gonna make it so, like that. So now we have both guns pointing in that direction. So now that we have our guns, let's just do something. Let's make a particle system that kind of, you know, triggers when you click on the fire button, or, you know, your mouse click. So for that, I'm gonna make another script. I'm gonna go to my scripts, create C# script, and I'm gonna call this gun controller. Then I'm going to drag this gun controller, and I'm gonna put it in my gun here, like so. And I'm gonna open this in code, and then I'm going to delete everything here, so I don't need these. Alright, so in my gun controller, I want to have, I'm going to delete these actually as well, like that. Okay, so first off, I want to create something that will kind of tell me when I've hit another object with a bullet. So in this case, we're going to be using raycasting. So I'm going to have private void awake like usual, and private void update. And in here, we kind of need to instantiate a ray in the position of our camera, and whenever it collides with something, we're gonna print something to the screen, like a debug.log, just to make sure that it works. So I'm gonna have a private void shoot, like so, and I'm gonna have a raycast hit called hit. Then I'm gonna have an if statement, and I'm gonna say if physics dot raycast, and then this takes in the origin where we want to cast the ray from. So we want to cast from the camera, right? Because it's in the center of our screen, it follows the mouse, so it makes sense. So I'm gonna say camera dot main dot transform dot position, and then for the direction, we're gonna point forward relative to the camera. So camera dot main dot transform dot forward. Then we're gonna output to the hit, like so. So this is gonna store our result, and then we're gonna have a max distance. So in our constants, we're gonna define this distance. So this is gonna be called max ray distance, and I'm gonna make this 1000. You can make it whatever you want, but just make sure it hits whatever you're trying to hit. And this is gonna be constant dot max ray distance, like so. I'm gonna save this. Before I do anything, actually, whoops, what am I doing here? This is supposed to be an if statement. Okay, I'm derping around. So this is an if statement. So we're saying if it hits something, we want to debug.log saying it hit something. So Let's just test this with this box right here. So if we select this box, this random cube that's here, I'm gonna call this, actually let me change the name, test enemy, like so, right? So if we point at this and shoot it, it should print test enemy to the screen. So to do that, I'm gonna say hit dot collider, or sorry, debug dot log, and then hit dot collider, so the object we collided with our array, dot game object dot name, like so. So this is gonna print the name to the screen. So this should work. Max ray distance. Ah, yes, I didn't save this. Okay, now that we got it saved, let's run the project. And you'll see when oh, sorry, I forgot something. So I actually forgot to put this in the update method. So in my gun controller, I'm gonna take the shoot method, and I'm gonna make sure that we click the left mouse button first. So if input dot get mouse button down, and then 0. So that's our left click. We're gonna shoot, like so. So now if I save it and run this, and if I hit shoot, it will say test enemy, like so. So this is working out properly. So now we know that our array actually works and we're colliding with objects. Alright, so what's the next step? Well, the next step is to make the flash. So we're gonna make the muzzle flash come out when we shoot the gun. So to do that, I'm gonna have a... So to do that, I'm gonna have an object. I'm gonna create an object, and I'm gonna call this, let's see, we're gonna go to effects, particle system, and it's already lighting up everywhere, so that's good. I'm gonna put this here. We're gonna make a prefab out of this first. So the duration is gonna be something very quick, like 0.2. I'm going to disable, well, I won't disable looping for now. I'm gonna disable play on awake. The start delay is 0, start lifetime, this is going to be 0.2, like so. Start speed, I'm gonna make this 10, so it's gonna be quicker. Then let's see, start size, this is going to be 0.4, like so. Start color, let's make this yellow, for example. And let's see, simulation speed, no, this is fine. Delta, okay. Emission, okay. So rate over time is going to be 0. We don't want this over time, we want it to be in bursts. So I'm gonna hit plus here. We want it to look like that pretty much whenever we hit it. And the count is gonna be 30. Okay. As for the shape, it's gonna be a cone, and the angle is going to be 90 degrees, like so. And let's see, for the radius, it's going to be 0.5, 0.3, 0.2. Let's see how this looks. Like so. Want to make this smaller. And arc 360. That's good. Okay, renderer, instead of billboard, we're gonna do stretch billboard, like so. And what else? Camera scale, default particle system. That's good. Trailer material, none. That's good. We want to also adjust the lighting of it. So I'm gonna minimize all of these. Then for the lights, I'm gonna have a... Actually, before I even add a light, let me make this object itself. So I'm gonna create empty, and I'm gonna call this flash. I'm gonna drag this particle system into the flash, and then actually let me adjust the orientation of this particle system right here. So it's kind of going that way. I'm gonna make this, let's make this minus 90 in rotation, like so. Or minus 180. Okay, that's much better. Okay, so start lifetime. Okay, way better than before. This is good. And then duration is going to be 0.1. And bam, just like that. Okay, this is good. I'm going to add a point light to this flash object. So I'm going to select light and then point light. And then I'm going to actually disable this, so it's not going to be on by default. It's only going to be on with the flash itself. So I'm going to select this particle system, and then in the lights option here, so I'm going to click this. I'm going to, whoops, it was actually selected. So I'm going to click lights. I'm going to enable this, and then for the light where it says none, I'm going to drag this point light and put it here. And now it's actually going to use that light, and before it uses it, I'm going to change the ratio here to 0.1. See? Now it's actually using that light with the flash. So this is good. Okay. Now that we got our flash down, I'm going to create a folder here called prefabs. So folder prefabs, like so. Then I'm going to drag this flash and put it in my prefabs folder. Okay, so now I can take this flash, put it with the gun here, and then I can copy this and put it under this gun here. So now I'm going to take this flash and then drag this here. So let's see how this looks. Okay, so it's kind of like misplaced. I'm gonna drag this, put it here. We'll see how this looks. Okay, this looks good. And this looks good. Alright, so this looks good so far. Okay. Now that we have both, we're not gonna do play on awake, and we're gonna disable looping for this one and looping for this one. So that's good. Then, for both of our flashes, we're gonna tag this particle system. Actually, let's get a flash here. So I'm gonna rename this. Okay, I'm gonna give them both tags. I'm gonna name this flash1. So I'm gonna add a tag, flash1. And I'm gonna add another tag, flash2, like so. I'm gonna go back to my flash here. I'm gonna assign this as flash1 and flash2, like so. Then I'm gonna go back to my gun controller script, and I'm gonna have both flashes in here. So private game object flash first, private game object flash second. So that's my second flash. And then on awake, I'm gonna assign my flash first equal to game object dot find game object with tag, and again I'm gonna put the tags in the constants. So I'm gonna call this first flash, and then second flash, like so. And then I'm gonna call these flash1 and flash2, and then this is gonna be flash2. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my gun controller script. This is gonna be constants.first flash, and then the second flash, or flash second, is going to be constants.second flash. So that's how we access them. Then now each time we shoot, we're gonna type in flash first dot get component particle system, like so. And then particle system class has a method called play, so we're gonna use that to actually play the animation for the particle. And then same thing for the flash second. So let's test this out. Let's save everything and test this out. So there's no particle system attached to the flash game object, but a script is trying to access it. Actually, let's make sure this is not the case. So this is flash 1 and flash 2. Oh, I'm sorry. So this is particle system. Oh, you know what, actually? Let's tag this, the particle system itself that we selected, let's tag this as flash 2, and then let's tag the first particle system as flash 1 rather than the object itself. So let's keep this untagged and keep this untagged because these don't have the particle system component. So if I save this and I run this, so if I hit with my mouse, look what happens. It will actually start glowing, and we can move and we can shoot, right? So this is working out great so far. So now all we have to do is kind of do something when we do hit a certain enemy or an object. So I'm gonna pause this. I'm just gonna give this test cube that we have here, this test enemy, I'm gonna give it this name. So we're gonna check if that's the name and we're gonna destroy it. So let's see if that works. So hit.collider.gameObject.name. Okay, I'm gonna copy this. So I'm gonna say if hit.collider.gameObject.name equals. So if this is equal to, we're gonna copy this test enemy text. Copy that. So if this is the case, we want to destroy the game object. And I'm actually gonna assign this to a variable right here. So I'm gonna make a new variable called game object hit. So this is the object that we hit, pretty much. And this is equal to hit.collider.gameObject. And I'm gonna take this and paste it in here. And then we're gonna destroy this object hit. So we're gonna say if object hit.name. So I'm gonna take this, replace all of this with the object hit. And if the object hit.name equals test enemy, then I'm gonna destroy this object hit right here, like so. So if we test this out, so now we're shooting randomly around the object, and what happens when we hit the object? It gets destroyed. So this is working the way we want. So this is good so far. Okay. So I'm gonna make an else for another case statement. I'm gonna make this for the boss that we hit pretty much. So I'm gonna make a new object. Whoops, that was very far. So I'm gonna make an enemy object now. And I'm gonna delete this test enemy. I'm gonna minimize this canvas. I'm gonna make create empty. I'm gonna make something called boss. So this is boss. And then I'm gonna create a 3D object, cube. I'm gonna drag this in front of me, like so. So it's right here. Then for this cube, I'm gonna extend this Y direction. So it's gonna be slightly taller, like so. Okay, that's good. For the X is gonna be 2, so a little bit thicker. This is gonna be called the torso. And I'm just gonna make dummy arms, really. At this point it doesn't matter. Oh, sorry, not a capsule. I'm gonna make a create a 3D object. Then I'm gonna choose cylinder. And my cylinder is all the way here. I'm gonna drag this. Right, so this boss should be... Okay, so it's being dragged. Okay, so this cylinder is... I'm gonna flip this in the Z direction, 90 degrees. So I'm gonna make this 90, so it's gonna look like that. And then for the size, I'm gonna make this 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. Actually, for the Y, I'm gonna make this 1, make this long. Actually, let's make this 0.5 or 0.2. Okay, let's make it look like shoulders, like that. And then I'm gonna make it create empty. I'm gonna call this left arm, kind of. So left arm, like that. I'm gonna drag this cylinder. And then I'm gonna make another cylinder under here. Actually, I'm not gonna do this. I'm just gonna duplicate this one that I have right now. So Control D. I'm gonna drag this like so. And I'm gonna rotate this around the Z axis. So I'm gonna make this 0. I'm gonna drag it here, like that. And then I'm going to extend the Y. I'm gonna make this 1. Like that. So this is the left arm. I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna call this right arm. And then instead of being 5.66, this is gonna be, you know, negative 5 point, whoops. So it's gonna be here. Actually, I'm just gonna keep the position. I'm just gonna rotate this around the Y axis. So I'm gonna rotate this 90 degrees or 180 for that matter, like so. And there you go, that's the arms of the boss. Then I'm gonna add the head. So I'm gonna create empty. I'm gonna call this head, and within that head I'm gonna create a cube. And then I'm gonna find this cube. I don't know why they keep getting created like that, in that position. Okay, like so. That's good. And then I'm gonna create here a cylinder. So that's gonna be like the neck, pretty much. And again, the cylinder is far away. And this is gonna be 0.2, 0.2, 0.2 in scale. I'm gonna minimize this. I'm gonna put this cube a little bit higher. Let's see how this looks. Okay, that looks good. And I'm just gonna make the boss a little bit bigger, so I'm gonna scale him. Like so. I'm gonna make him big like this. And then I'm gonna add the legs now. So I'm gonna create empty. Legs. And this is going to be 0. Whoops. This is going to be 0, 0, 0. Like so. So it's gonna be here. But this should be relative to the boss. So 0, 0, 0. And if I press F, should be there. That's good. I'm gonna create empty cube, another cube right here, and then I'm going to position one of them to be the legs by putting it here. So I'm just kind of just doing rough work, really. Gonna adjust the Y to be like that. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to delete this cube. I'm going to copy this one by hitting Control D. Move it here. Okay, looks good so far. So now that we've got the boss completed, we just need to have 4 phases for the boss. So I'm gonna create another folder here, and I'm going to call this sprites. And I already have some sprites on my desktop, so I'm gonna drag all these 4 images that you see here into my sprites folder, like so. Okay, so I have all these images, and then in the head object right here, and within the cube, I'm gonna create another object. This is gonna be a plane, really. So it's gonna be a plane. I'm gonna call this face 1. And I'm gonna minimize this. I'm gonna make this 0.2, 0.2, and 0.2, like that. And then I'm gonna adjust the rotation around the x-axis. Whoops. Make this 90 or -90. So as you can see, this is like the face for the boss. And let's make the size actually 0.1, 0.1, and 0.1. Let's see how this looks. Okay, not bad. So you can see it looks kind of like a part of the rectangle itself, like so. And I'm gonna drag this. Where is the first face? So this is gonna be the first face. I'm gonna drag this here, and this is rotated for some reason, so I'm gonna rotate this around Y by 180. No, wait. So this is Z, this is Y. If I rotate Y by 180, rotates like that, so that's not good. 90, no, I don't want to rotate it around the Y. Let's see Z. For some reason it's rotating the same way everywhere. This is not how I really want it. Whoops. So I'm gonna select this face 1, hit E, and really I just want to rotate it like this. Okay, much better. Alright, that's good. So this is what I want. Next up, I'm gonna duplicate this face. So I'm gonna do Control D 3 times. This is gonna be called face 2, face 3, and this is gonna be called face 4, like so. Okay, so for face 2, I'm going to move this here and move this behind. So this is going to be flipped around the y-axis. So this is going to be 0. As you can see, it looks around this way. And then I'm going to drag this here. I'm going to snap it by holding V on the keyboard, like so. As you can see, it starts to move the controls around, and I'm going to snap it around the edges, like so. So it's going to snap around the first face. So if I look around, this should have... I'm going to move this forward a little bit. And then backwards just a little bit. Okay, that's much better. So for phase 2, I'm going to put Wojak with the mask here. Like so. So this is phase 2. So when it rotates, this is what we see. Then for phase 3, I'm going to drag this behind and rotate it around the Z-axis. So this Z is going to be, 90, like so. And I'm going to snap this as well by hitting V and snapping it around the edges, and then move it forward just a little bit so we can still see it, like so. And then of course I'm going to change the image to the third one. So this is going to be phase 3. And then phase 4, I'm going to pretty much take this one, push it around here, and then rotate it around the Z-axis, like so, or 90. I'm just gonna make this 180. So that was the correct orientation. Hit V again and then snap it. right around and that's where we want to snap it. Looks kind of iffy, so I'm gonna drag it a little bit to the front like so. Looks good. And then I'm gonna put phase 4 into it like that. All right, so now that we're done with actually making our boss, what I want to do now is actually rotate this every time we hit the bullets, or maybe every 10 bullets. So to do that, I'm gonna go back to my scripts, and then in here I'm gonna say create C# script, and this is going to be called head controller, like so. And what this will do is we'll rotate the cube and in turns show us different faces. So pretty much it's gonna select this cube that we have and rotate it. So to do that, I'm gonna drag this head controller and put it on the cube, so we have it right here. Then I'm going to open this head controller like so. And then in here, I'm just gonna make a method that we call externally from our gun controller class, right? So let's make a tag or a name for this. And for this cube, I'm just gonna make a tag called boss. So I'm gonna make a tag called boss, go back to cube and assign this tag to boss like that. And then in here, in my constants, I'm gonna make it as well. So this is gonna be called boss tag, and this is going to be called boss like that. And now I'm gonna check in my gun controller else if object hit dot tag dot equals constants dot boss tag. And if that's the case, we're gonna have our logic here. So I want to rotate the head every 10 hits. So I'm gonna make a private float num hits. Whoops. Num hits. And then in here, num hits is going to be 0 on awake. So num hits equal to 0. And then in here, every time we hit the boss, we're gonna say num hits plus plus, and then when we reach 10 hits we want to rotate. So if num hits is greater than or equal to 10, we want to reset it, so num hits equals 0, and then we want to rotate the head. So now to rotate it, we're going to have a method in head controller called rotate, and this is going to be IE numerator because we want to rotate it over time, and we're not going to be using the update method here. So we're gonna make this public or private. Actually, we don't need this to be public. Private IE numerator, and we're gonna call this rotate, and it's gonna take in 3 parameters. One of them is the transform that we want to rotate. So transform my transform, and then it's gonna rotate by degrees. So we're gonna say vector 3 degrees. So which which axis you want to rotate it about, and then we want to have, let's see, we want to rotate it over time, so we're gonna have float time like so. And then in here we're gonna have 2 quaternions. One of them is the original rotation, so we're gonna say quaternion original rotation like so. And this is equal to my transform dot rotation like that. And then we're gonna have another quaternion final rotation, and this is gonna be equal to original it's gonna be my transform dot rotation times degrees like so. And then whoops, It's not going to be degrees, it's going to be degrees, and this is going to be Euler, like so. Okay. So that's the final rotation. Then we're going to have an int timer or float timer that keeps track of the time that passed. What else? We're gonna have a rate, so float rate equals 1 over time, like that, so the rate that we rotate at. And then I'm just gonna have a while loop here that says while the timer itself is less than 1.0. And then in here I'm just gonna increment this timer that we instantiated, so timer plus equals, and we want to increase it by time dot delta time times the rate, right? And then in here, each time I just want to say, you know, my transform dot rotation is equal to quaternion dot slurp, and this is gonna be slurping between the original rotation and the final one in a set amount of time. So this is gonna be original rotation, final rotation, and then in here I'm gonna put the timer, like so. And this is because it's an enumerator, it's gonna do yield return null, and that's it. So this should work. And to use this, we're gonna actually have to make a coroutine. So I'm gonna have to make public void rotate over time. And this is going to take the same parameters as this one, like so. And we're gonna call start coroutine, and then our enumerator, like so, like that. And this is gonna be my transform, obviously. This is gonna be degrees, and this is gonna be time. So then I want to call this method each time we hit the boss 10 times. So I'm gonna copy this, rotate over time, and I'm gonna type in find object of type. So this is gonna find our head controller class. I'm gonna type in head controller dot rotate over time. And what are we rotating over time? Well, we're rotating the object that we hit. So object hit dot transform, like so, and then we want to rotate it over 90 degrees on the y-axis. So it's going to be 0, 90, 0, and then we want to rotate it over 1 second, like so. So now let's test this out. Let's see what happens if we hit it 10 times. So actually, let's test out if it actually hits. So I'm going to do debug.log, and this is going to say we hit the boss, like so. Alright, let's see what happens now. So I'm going to play the game. So it's not hitting the boss, and I think this is because the mesh colliders are intercepting this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove the mesh collider from this one, remove component, and then same thing with these ones actually. So mesh collider, remove component, and if we hit play, and it will say we hit the boss. So it is working. So let's hit it 10 times again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so it's rotating kind of funny. Alright. So there's nothing wrong here. Let's look at gun controller. So we're rotating over time, object hit.transform, new vector, 0, 90. Oh, I see. So this should be 0 actually. So we're not rotating in Z at all. So that was the mistake. So now if we go back here and hit play, this should rotate properly now. So let's look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. and now it's rotating properly. So there you go, your bootleg Tombraider. You can do more with this. You can add your own sound effects, you can add on-hit effects, you can play around with meshes and, you know, like make a dent in the face itself. Obviously that's gonna take too long for this tutorial, and this tutorial was long enough. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you want more things like this, then please subscribe to the channel and let me know what you want to see in Unity, what kind of content do you want to watch, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Peace.